Hey everybody, Jason C. Brown from KettlebellAthletics.com. I'm going to make this a three-part series. It's called Why Your Kettlebell Won't Swing. Okay? There's three things that I'd like to break down into detail, and I'm sure you've seen this, maybe even happens to yourself. There's three different issues that we're going to deal with. The first one is something that we're going to call gluteal amnesia. That's an actual clinical term used for when our glutes just lose that neural connection with our nervous system, right? So the nervous system and the actual muscle are not communicating very well. It's an actual clinical term. It's called gluteal amnesia. All right, so if you can picture just the top of a swing, you want full hip extension at the top, right? But if your glutes are the primary muscle that are involved in this action, extension, hip extension, if there's no neural connection, if they absolutely can't fire because of loss of connection just from years of sitting down and inactivity, you got to do some preliminary exercises prior to your kettlebell training. All right. One of the biggest ones that I recommend will involve a tennis ball, and it's called the Cook hip lift, named after Gray Cook. All right. You don't necessarily need to use a tennis ball. You can use any object here, but a tennis ball works quite well. You're going to take this and put it right at the bottom of your rib cage. Okay? Not down on your abs, at the bottom of your rib cage. Because if we're down here, you could pinch it a lot easier. You want it up high. Don't look at my white thighs. You want it up high, so if I lose this connection, the ball will actually roll out. All right? That's number one. Foot spacing. I like to say put your hands down flat and just put your heels to wherever your fingers extend to. All right? So that's what I like for the hip placement. Take the tennis ball, pick a side, and go here right to the top bottom of the ribs. Your other hands are just going to clasp here. Contract your glute before you even try to bridge. Remember, it's called the Cook hip lift. It's going to be about a 2 to 3 inch range of motion, very short range of motion. Drive through your heel. Just try to get your pelvis off the floor. This should be all glute. You might feel it in your hamstring as well. Your hamstrings can actually start to cramp in this position. That's a whole nother issue called synergistic dominance, but we won't deal with that today, okay? If it feels like a very short range of motion, that's because it is. It's only about 2 to 3 inches. It's a slow, controlled movement, all right? So what happens is, why this is so beneficial is when people lack proper hip function, they try to extend through or they actually compensate by extending through the lumbar. By putting one hip into that position, you put all the extension onto the hip and limit the lumbar extension. All right? It's called the Cook hip lift. Try it out with a tennis ball or another ball. Remember, bottom of the ribs right here, 2 hands clasped, real small range of motion, 2 to 3 inches. Thank you.